Type 2 diabetes can be the one which can be prevented. Type 1 diabetes is the one where you don't produce any insulin or the pancreas stop working. Most of the time, signs are like weak bladder, too much of thirst, too much of hunger. So these are three things which we call it the three P's. How many of us really manage to go for a 30-minute walk every day? It is mandate like 30 minutes of exercise. And the next thing is a diet. Carbohydrate is the biggest family which all converts into glucose. If you haven't looked after your body, then you can develop diabetes.
Today, we have a very special guest, Nisha Khemka, a highly experienced dietitian specializing in diabetes, weight management, cardiac ailments, and eating disorders across all age groups. With over 20 years working with NHS UK, Nisha brings invaluable expertise coupled with a passion for public education and consulting with the pharmaceutical companies. Welcome to the Impact Show. Thanks for joining. Let's start with discussing the basics. Can you briefly explain what is diabetes and difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes?
Sure. As the word itself says, diabetes, there is something to do with diet, and the word I always like it to bring it to myself because that's what I'm more important than anything. So it is always what we eat, and it's all excess of sugar in your system, or glucose as we call it. Because for a layman, you speak glucose and they're like, oh, I don't know what is glucose, but I know what is sugar. So it's excess of glucose in the system, which could be a reason where your body is unable to get rid of it. And there could be multiple reasons. And there could be factors like, okay, you've got too much weight on you, you're not very active, you're not using it up, or you're eating too much. And that's where it starts accumulating and you develop diabetes.
Sure.
And there is what we call as basic type 2 diabetes, which is mostly common. And it is something which is a part of your system if you don't look after your system. So it's like one of those, I always like to use the car as an example. So you have an MOT with the car. You don't pass the MOT of the car if you don't look after it. The same goes with diabetes. If you haven't looked after your body, then you can develop diabetes. And type 2 diabetes is the one which can be prevented. And mostly people say that, hang on, I am going to get it because my parents had it. Type 1 diabetes is the one where you don't produce any insulin or the pancreas stop working. And pancreas, I'm sure you would have heard, or maybe it's one of the organs in our body which produces insulin. And insulin is like the key which unlocks the glucose. So obviously with this door, we all had to have a key to get in. We know there's place to sit here. You can't get in without the key. So the key is the one which is the insulin, which is going to be produced by the body. And that's going to unlock the glucose. The glucose will give you energy to function. So those are the two commonly known diabetes in the national framework, if I can say. And the next bits comes when we call as gestational diabetes, which can only happen to women when they are expecting a baby. So gestational diabetes is, and it's only like a part of that 9 months period. So once the baby is born, it goes away, and the baby doesn't have any effect on that. The only thing is that the baby can be born a bit larger because they are swimming in the sugar fluid. So that's one thing. And then the fourth one, which we've recently heard, or we've heard more of it, called as prediabetes. Prediabetes.
Yes.
Which is a warning sign, I call it.
Sure. Given that many people, including friends of mine, family, are pre-diabetic, just now mentioned. Why diabetes is such a critical health issue, especially in South Asian or Indian households?
Okay. Any guesses?
Again, diet?
And lifestyle.
Lifestyle.
That's something, and also we already have this prejudgment that, okay, because I've got a certain genetic inheritance, I will get it. And we don't even think about how can I not get it. So it's always that, oh, I will get it because I have got a family history, or I've got a genetic inheritance. Like a simple thing. We all, as I said, born with black or grey element of the hair. But we go to the hairdressers, get it colored blonde, blue, purple. So same way, why can't we think of the diabetes that way? That why can't I change it? And the reason we would have more of a factor on this is that some of the things which I would say that as a child, everybody's supposed to do some sports. But what about when you get into the real life, when you are in a career? How many of us really manage to go for a 30-minute walk every day? Oh, I've got a busy job. I have to get to my desk at 9 o'clock. I have to finish till 7 o'clock. Then I've got a family life where I have to come and look after them. Maybe take the train. You can at least walk to the station. There is exercise, which definitely is one thing, which we often forget is why it's important. And the next thing is a diet. Most of our diet or meals are based around carbs. And I'm sure carbohydrate is the biggest family which all converts into glucose. And it's going to burden your pancreas. So it'll have to produce more insulin and it'll have to produce excess, and it gets worn out. Those are the two major things. But obviously,
the lifestyle,
there is big
lifestyle and our diet, like mostly
Definitely.
carbs and refined sugars
Definitely.
would be there
Definitely.
in Asian diet.
Yeah. Like again, I'll just say this one bit. It's, I think 30% is diet, 30% is food, 30% is your medical thing, and 10% is a mindset. And that 10% is the biggest one. If you cannot manage that 10%, the rest is by the way.
What are the primary risk factors for developing diabetes in people 30 to 50? Yeah.
So if you've already had diabetes, and the risk factors is that, let's say, if you've had a fracture, let's say for example,
Okay.
then the chances of you healing could be half of the chance of somebody without diabetes. Because any wound, they all have bacteria, and the wound has to dry up, and bacteria will have sugar.
Sure.
So you've already got diabetes in the system, then the bacteria will be feeding on the wound. And that's the reason the healing can be delayed.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And
that's the reason, like any surgery, they'll make sure if you are diabetic, that would be kind of they will take more precautions.
Yes, so they will expect you to have a very good control before you start
the
procedure of the operation.
Sure.
Or also at the same time, there's another bit which we considered. It's like I'm sure we all know there is lime scale in the water in this country.
Sure. Yes.
So the same is with our body system. So we've got this pipe which we've got the blood arteries and veins through which the blood runs. So if you've got sugar droplets in that, the blood will be sticky. So it won't be free flowing. So if the blood goes to the brain to function, the blood goes to every part of the body for us to walk, run, talk. We all need. So if it's sticky blood, then it'll be sluggish. So if I've had, like, suppose water spills here.
Yeah.
It's simple water, I'll clean it off with a tissue. But if it's sugary water, I need a bit more than just a tissue.
Yeah.
So I need a better wipe to clean that. And that's exactly what is in the system. Why are we more dominant to get this, or predominant? Is because we also have a lot of grease in our food. We all like a bit of a samosa or a bhajia or a bit more sweets, I can say, compared to what I would say. Nobody is going to say no to it, but there is always a balance. So imagine the sticky blood is there, and then you've also got fat. So you've got worst lime scale in your system.
Great.
And that's where it's going to clog all of this.
Oh my God.
And as you said about the risk factors, if I come back to that question, the risk factor again is that if you've had diabetes, then there's more chances of you to get into a complication of heart disease. So they all go hand in hand. Unfortunately, diabetes is not like hay fever. It's not seasonal. It stays with you.
It stays with you forever.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Understanding the role of the diet is essential. And I've successfully failed to make them understand.
Right, okay.
Could you share some common dietary misconceptions about diabetes management and provide general dietary guidelines for those looking to prevent type 2 diabetes?
Right, okay. Excellent question. I think that's very, what's the word? It's a very personal question, and people always feel that going to a dietitian, first of all, is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then she'll give me a plan which I can never follow. That is the biggest misconception people have, because they feel that, oh, every diet food is going to be more expensive. So if you take an example of, I'll say, stop eating a burger for lunch, have a box of salad. And you'll be like, I don't have the time to eat salad because it takes me longer. Whereas I can just munch a burger in 5-7 minutes. A salad will take me 20 minutes. At the same time, preparing the salad will take you time. And that's where the whole myth lies. And we are all into batch cooking nowadays. So I don't think so there's an issue if you batch cook your salads as well. Make a few dressings, make few things which you like. And if you see a dietitian, personally, I don't give a plan. I talk to you to ask you, what is your routine? What are your favorite foods? What are your guilt pleasures, if I can call it? Do you drink? Do you smoke? I go through everything.
Sure.
And then that's the only way. If you know the person, then you can tackle. And my initial advice, or first advice, is always 10% reduction of what you're doing right now, rather than slash, because they'll never come back to you.
How much and what types of exercise are recommended for diabetes prevention for middle-aged adults?
For anybody right across the board, whether you've got diabetes or no diabetes, it is mandate, like as the government says, 30 minutes of exercise at least 5 to 6 times a week.
5 to 6 times a week.
Minimum.
Okay.
And exercise is not something where you just go out with your friend and have a stroll. You should be able to hold a conversation, but you should feel a little bit out of breath. A bit of impact. So like, often people say that, I've got a dog, I take the dog for a walk. But are you walking the dog? Is the dog walking you? Also, people I often hear say that, oh, I don't have 30 minutes. And I say, no problem. Do 10 minutes whenever you have time. Even when I work in the office, people say, oh, we've got a desk job, so we don't have time to exercise. I said, get us a walking desk.
Yeah.
I said, no, get up, have headphones which are wireless.
Sure.
When it's a quiet area, just walk around and talk while you're walking. You don't have to be on your desk. You can always, and these things are so easily available, and they are available at a very low cost.
Low cost, no.
A standard headphone, like you could buy £250, you could buy £50.
True.
You have to like be a little bit,
Sure.
I would say, you have to shop around.
I've noticed that traditional Asian diets often include a lot of refined carbohydrates and sugars. What changes can individuals make these diets to reduce risk of diabetes?
See, if I take an example of a standard thali, we call it as Indian plate or food plate, is called as a thali. So it will have the main carbs which will be there on the plate will be a chapati. Then there'll be some kind of rice, and there will be some curry with a potato base in it.
Sure.
Where we've got 3 lots of carbs there. There could be a lentil, which
Yeah.
could be a dal. I'm talking about vegetarian thali. And there could be some yogurt. There could be some pickles, some chutneys. There could be some green vegetable.
Sure.
But if I divide that plate into parts, the
Yeah.
3/4 of the plate
Sure.
will be carbs.
Okay.
Whereas we are looking at a third of each. So a third of the plate should be carbohydrates, which could be like half a chapati, a small portion of rice, half a potato. Not 2 chapatis, not a bowl of rice.
Other way around.
Other way
basically.
around. Actually, it's the other way around. And then the third of the plate could be all your vegetables. And the third could be a protein, which could be dal, chicken, fish, whatever. If you're eating any of those things, then it's absolutely fine. And that's where we go wrong. Not being Asian biased aware, but if I compare this to a roast dinner, which is a standard English meal, if I can say, a Sunday lunch. So they'll have some kind of meat. They'll have potatoes.
Sure.
And they'll have lots of vegetables.
Yeah.
So the carb over there is only potato.
True.
The meat is all the protein over there.
Yeah.
The vegetable is all a different family. And the carb is only potato.
Yes.
So it doesn't mean that they will also have a bread in that same meal. They won't also have a rice in the same meal. So you choose one type of carb. And even with vegetarians, they often say that, oh, there are not many vegetarian carbs. But there are so many lentils.
Yeah.
You've got like 20, 30 varieties of lentils in India. You name it, and there's like, you go to any country, any part of India, you'll know that there are lots of different lentils in the world.
Sure.
Yeah. The other meal which I'll just quickly finish is that a typical in like chili con carne is another English meal where they'll have a chili and rice.
Okay.
So they will have chili is going to be like all meat with vegetables and rice. So they won't have bread in that meal.
Right.
So that's what I'm trying to get to, that you use one carbohydrate. So to eliminate that thali thing, you can always use a curry without potatoes because you've already got the chapati. You can't eat without a chapati. So you can just have like cabbage, peas, just don't have the potato.
Sure. What are some early signs of diabetes that people should aware of?
Most of the time, people who have had signs are like weak bladder. So they obviously been to the loo and they want to go back again. Too much of thirst.
Sure.
Too much of hunger. So these are 3 things which we call as the 3 Ps.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a proper medical terminology for that, 3 Ps.
Sure.
That is polydipsia, polypepsia, and there's the third one which I can't remember. But that's the 3 Ps. If you go to doctor, that's what they say. And then the 4th one comes along as mood swings.
Mm.
So mood swings we all have now. So I don't think there's anything which I should really say on that.
Sure.
But when I say about excess thirst, so suppose I've got this bottle of water and then I've like finished that all and like again, I'm like really feeling that, oh, I'm all dry and I'm like really quenching of thirst.
Sure.
Excess of urination, okay, normal for people to go to the toilet 4-5 times, but if they're going 10 times, more than the normal ones, then it is something which you need to think of.
Sure.
And excess hunger. So you've just finished a meal, within 20 minutes again you're ready for another meal. That itself shows that you are going to get that. That is the basic signs for type 2.
Type 2.
People with type 1s have a sudden weight loss. So they would lose weight like a stone in a week or 10 days. It's like dropping down on stones. Very quick. That's the classic signs. Yeah. And also autoimmune condition will have other diseases where people have celiac disease, where they have gluten, allergy to gluten and things like, so they have to have gluten-free food and stuff like that.
Sure.
So that is a different can of worms, if I can say.
Sure.
And you cannot prevent type 1 diabetes.
Type
It
1
is something
diabetes.
which is there because of failure of pancreas totally.
Sure.
But type 2 is something which we can look after.
We can look after. Imagine a case study.
Yeah.
A 40-year-old Asian male with a family history of diabetes, currently pre-diabetic,
Okay.
leading a sedentary lifestyle
Right.
and consuming a diet high in refined carbs and sugars. What would be your approach to creating a practical diet plan for him to prevent the progression to type 2 diabetes?
Excellent stuff. So when you say this sedentary person, we are talking about somebody who's doing
Pretty
this-
much everyone.
everyone
day to
around
day.
us.
Yeah.
Everyone around us. And the word you said, best success to failure kind of a thing. So I think the easiest thing is to just go through what they're eating. And as you mentioned, the word refined carbs.
Yes.
So give them what is not refined carbs. So the first refined carb is what we eat is chapati.
Right.
So you need to think of what is the chapati made of. Is it wholemeal flour? Is it maida?
Sure.
What is it made of? So
Yeah.
if it has got refined flour, then we need to replace it. So like for like.
Sure.
Don't tell him to stop eating chapati because he's going to never do that because that is a staple thing where a person is born and brought up eating chapatis. So maybe you can change the flour, you can add a bit of fiber to it. And the simplest thing is to make it half and half by adding soya beans, or you could have millets. You could have, there are lots of millets, jawar, bajra, makai. And it's not easy to make a chapati out of them, but if you have half and half. With the bread as well, they've started now half and half,
Sure.
best of both, 50-50. Same thing you can do with the chapati. Why not? And portion control. So the two keys, portion control and changing to wholemeal flours. That's the main key to it. So if you are used to having 2 potatoes in a plate, go for 1. If you're used to having a big bowl of rice, go for a smaller bowl. And often I use handful is what is the portion size, which is always easy. Like if I give you like a cup full, you can't carry this cup everywhere. You will have your hands with you everywhere.
Sure. Yeah.
So if you are eating
True,
at a friend's place as well, or if
Easy
it's
to
a buffet
measure.
meal,
Yeah.
you can always think of, okay, a mouse size, computer mouse size, or a handful, or an orange size. And those are the classic examples I give.
Sure.
So that's something which we can do. One thing I definitely need to tell you, because I always have this whole feeling about dry fruits.
Yes.
Nuts and dry fruits.
Yeah.
I'm jumping the
Okay.
topic over here.
No
But
problem.
nuts and dry fruits, we often start eating and we never stop eating. So my suggestion for people to eat nuts is eat every day. But eat what fits into the matchbox.
Matchbox.
Matchbox. And I'm talking about this matchbox, which is the small size
Small
matchbox.
size. Okay, it's
not
not
the
big
family
size.
size matchbox, yeah? So you can still eat nuts every day, but it has to be that small matchbox.
Is it? Okay.
So if you think of it, you can easily fit 2 cashews, 2 almonds,
That's it.
4 raisins.
It's not like a handful
No.
nuts?
No. If you want to eat every day. So that's exactly what it is. There will be stuff which says, okay, nuts are good, but nobody tells you how much of nuts are good.
True.
So hence, you should eat everything you like every day, but a little of it.
Those are some excellent suggestions. Can you also share some tips how family members can support someone in making these dietary and lifestyle changes?
One thing which we all have to remember, I don't know if you've heard of this word called as leftovers.
Sure.
Yeah. So we all often cook more than what we need to eat.
Yeah.
It's a very common thing. Anywhere in the world you go, there will always be food which is cooked more than what is required.
Sure.
So first of all, we need to start cooking what is only needed. Like even when I'm trying to soak the rice to make for my family, I would just tip it out. Now I've got like a measuring cup in that. So I know if I soak 2 cups, it'll do me 2 meals.
Sure.
Where I would just tip it out of the can or the container, whatever was there. And the second thing which I have realized over time, that if there's a little bit of food left, I'll just scrape it my husband's plate. Oh, why don't you finish it? I don't want to put it in the fridge away.
True, absolutely.
Those are the 2 things.
Yeah.
If you can control the portion of what you cook
Yeah.
and stop serving the leftovers. It is a
It's-
thought in our mind.
yeah,
We know
yeah.
the world is going hungry.
Yeah.
But you yourself haven't taken the whole burden of the world.
Sure.
Doesn't matter. When you can eat a loaf of bread over 4 days, why can't you eat the leftover dinner next afternoon or morning?
Of course.
You can make a filling for a sandwich for
Sandwich,
lunchtime
yeah.
rather than just scraping on your husband's plate or
Yeah.
wife's plate to finish it over.
Absolutely.
And that's what we've seen growing up.
Sure.
Because our parents have taught us. Like my
Exactly.
mom has always told me, if you haven't had your lunchbox, you eat that for dinner first, then you get the fresh food. So it's been there in my mind, and that's where it all goes to.
It's coming
So
from.
yeah, those are the 2 basic things, I'll be honest with you. And that's the magic to it.
Sure.
There's no rocket science to these things.
Sure. Sure. Before we move into dietitian role, in managing diabetes. Do you have any piece of advice? Anyone struggling to manage their diabetes or looking to prevent it?
Right, okay. I think to prevention, as you've heard, prevention is always better than cure. Yes. Struggling to manage to prevent it is just a mindset. You have to always have a quiet word with that person to see what are the risks of it. And where I work, we do what we call as the first line advice of diabetes, and we invite people. We hold this session every Wednesday. So it's a set session. People can just book in. It's like a choose and book system in the NHS. So whoever wants, and there's a capacity of 20 people in there. And all you get over there is the worst side of diabetes. What is the long-term complications? People don't like bad news. Nobody likes bad news.
Sure.
But as a healthcare professional, it is your duty, or as a human being, to tell them what is the worst part of it. And if they have got the logic of the worst, then they will get their act together straight away. Like,
It's
the
a lack
packet
of knowledge,
yeah.
right? This is everything
Absolutely.
happening like, lack of knowledge.
Cigarettes are the most selling things.
They don't see these side effects.
Absolutely.
For next 5 years or 10 years, it could take another 10 years or 20
It says
years.
smoking kills on that packet.
Yes.
People
but
go and buy it. So they've done their job over there.
Sure.
Excuse me for saying that, but that's what it is all about.
Sure.
And why are we healthcare professionals scared of telling the patients or people that this is going to be the worst side of it?
I know dietitians play a key role in diabetes care, but many people may not fully understand the importance of their expertise. Often, individuals attempt to manage diabetes on their own. I won't take advantage of you here. Guide my family or friends, community. How can consultations with a dietitian provide not only nutritional information but also motivational support for a healthier lifestyle? I know you touched it,
Yeah,
but
sure.
It's
Sure. Yeah. So I think when we're talking about a family, we need to really consider what sort of age group is that. So there could be like a 2-year-old child, there could be an 80-year-old person as well. And there could be a young couple going to the city every day to work, hectic lifestyle. So that is the main thing which we need to consider. Who are we catering to? It's like running a business. So you have to be sure that you can cater to everybody's needs and come up with a menu which is easily followed over 7 days. And there's nothing wrong in planning a menu. If you've already got the thought process, there are some companies which give you that meal in a box.
Yeah.
So you can plan a meal in a box for 7 days. Nothing wrong with that. Try it out for a week. You'll find life easy. Not that I'm promoting them. You
Sure.
can make your own meal in a box.
Of course.
Go to your own supermarket, but you need to write down everything. A bit of planning always helps. And that's the key to it. And always take the likes and dislikes of every person in the family. So when
Sure.
you make the 7-day meal planner,
Yeah.
there should be one favorite person's, everybody's favorite meal should be there.
It has to be balanced.
It has to be balanced.
Yeah.
And that's
Sure.
that's the only way you can continue it. There's all these diets, whatever come in the market are all short-lived. They come, they make the money in 6 months, they're out of fashion. It's like fashion.
Sure. In what ways can a dietitian help in weight loss, preventing further complications and improving fitness and efficiency?
So let's say if you have to lose a kilogram of weight,
Sure.
it adds up to 7,000 calories. And 7,000 calories over 14 days is not a big thing to lose. So if somebody is used to eating, let's say, a 4-finger Kit Kat every day.
Sure.
So that itself is almost 350 calories. And if you stop eating that every day, make it 2-finger Kit Kat, you'll have a calorie deficit straight away. Somebody is used to eating 3 chapatis every day. I'll say, okay, eat only 2. You'll have 100 calorie deficit over there. Somebody is used to eating 5 potatoes.
Sure.
I'll just say that instead of 5, have 4. So in the whole planner, what you've given me, your day's menu, I'll try to get 100 calories off every meal, and that'll add up to 500 a day. And then over 14 days, you'll lose a kg.
Great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
If that makes sense over here.
Yeah,
And that's the
absolutely.
simple logic.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it is impossible. I'm telling you, you have to make it as a plan. And you could have like, okay, if you've just done that, day 15 is your cheat day. You can have that bit of extra.
How do you tailor nutritional advice to individual needs during consultations?
Okay. I generally do a first consultation which takes up to 60 minutes. And prior to that, I advise people to send me a week's diary of their pattern. So it'll give me a weekday, weekend pattern as well. With everything, like literally even I have to ask them to write down when they sleep, what they drink, tea, coffee, water, juice, alcohol,
Sure.
what they smoke, everything they have to write down, and any activities they would do, clubbing, partying, sports.
Yeah. You need to understand basically.
You need to understand that.
Yeah, the daily, what
day,
exactly
yeah.
they are doing.
Or even if like, okay, get out of my house, get into my car, get out of my house, walk to the station, walk to the train,
Sure.
get to the office, take the train. I try and get as much as details I can. And I also request blood test results if people have had a recent blood test. Because people may have some deficiencies, could be general vitamin, mineral deficiencies,
Okay.
or could be some pre-existing conditions. And that definitely makes the advice a bit more constructive.
Constructive.
And one more thing which I often ask if people have got any allergies. Because I may start talking about, okay, eat this, and after 20 minutes I realize that, oh, they're allergic to it. So it's a waste of time.
Sure.
So that is an initial 60-minute conversation, and then I follow them up after 6 weeks, which is literally a 10-minute call.
Okay.
Or if they're happy to come back in clinic, then it's a face-to-face consultation.
Sure.
And I'm not, I generally don't do height and weight for people because it's not all about weight management. It's more about talking about what is the medical condition. If they have specific goals on height and weight, then they do their own height and weight themselves at home and they keep a record of it.
Sure.
Because it is not something which is where I like to name and shame them, because that is another motivation thing. Because they already know that they have got excess weight.
Yeah.
But then if you're expecting them to come into the clinic and then hang on, get onto the scales, that itself demotivates you.
Sure.
So that's their homework. Do it in your own space, in your own comfort.
It's a psychological factor.
It's a psychological factor. Because often we have people, like I often have students in my clinic with me. So I don't want them to be judged by a person, though the students are there to learn. But even with that person, if they've not managed to lose weight, they will have an eye contact with me. And that's where you don't want to ridicule them.
Can you provide example of personalized dietary recommendations for diabetes prevention and management?
If you are somebody who is able to exercise, then you can eat what you like. Absolutely, I'm telling you. That's the best justification. So if you're managing to do your 30 minutes, 6 days a week, and keep your weight well, no constraints, no constraints.
Do you recommend that refined carbs and carbs?
You have to be sensible.
Even if you're an exercise,
yeah, portion control.
your portion control has to be
Has
there,
to be
right?
there,
You
has
cannot
to be.
just eat like,
No. You can't have a
the
big
big
Mac
big
every day.
spikes.
No,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't have
yeah,
the Big
yeah,
Mac every day.
yeah.
Yeah. So try to have a balanced diet, as we call it. So I'm sure you've heard of the 5 a day.
Yeah.
Now that has become 7 a day, which is like fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
Out of that, 3 is fruits and veg as much as you like. There's no problem. Drink water, which is the key to it. Trust me on that front.
Sure.
Often we forget.
Yeah.
Because you don't, it's not hot enough. So people don't even think of drinking water. And often people say, oh, I feel hungry at 11 o'clock. I've had a breakfast. I can't wait till lunchtime. Because you've had the breakfast, which is taken all the liquids to digest. 11 o'clock, you're getting signs of hunger. Human brain doesn't know whether it's hunger or thirst. Drink water, you'll be fine. You can get through till 1 o'clock. So all those snacking in between is not required. Snacking is only for children.
Sure.
As grown-ups, we only eat breakfast, lunch and dinner. Yeah?
Yeah.
And that bedtime snack is not required. Supper, as they call it. There's no need of supper.
No need
we are
of
not
supper,
working
okay.
in the farm fields or stuff like that. We are just doing a desk job here.
Sure.
We don't need the supper.
We don't need
Just one thing I will mention, that if you are really looking to avoid the pre-diabetic stage or avoid to go, try to do a carb-free meal. Don't do all 3 carb-free meals.
Yeah.
So have one meal which have got no carbs.
Okay.
So you can have a breakfast with carbs, maybe lunchtime have just a salad. Evening generally it's a family meal together, so you don't want to be the odd one out.
Sure.
So you can have a carb-free lunch.
Sure. How do you help clients build sustainable habits that lead to long-term health benefits? This isn't a problem. Now, people will start, but sustainable is very important, right?
Yes.
So that's probably you're playing a key role.
Absolutely. I think the sustainable habits is that if they achieve certain things, if their target is to get diabetes controlled better, to lose weight, to get their cholesterol down, then that's the time when you tie in with them. And suppose if somebody's lost weight, so they've had clothes of the size when they were bigger,
Sure.
I tell them get rid of them. Don't keep the oversized clothes in your wardrobe, just get rid of them. You have to put that across. It sounds really mean.
Sure.
They'll be like, no, I may need them. No, you will never need them. You never need them. During COVID, fashion has changed.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would have realized yourself looking at people around. It's all casual dressing. There's no more the suit and tie thing.
Sure.
Or it's like jeggings.
Yeah.
And that is the worst part of flary pants or trousers are in fashion. Because we've all grown.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. And the other thing which I often have is I also do some part of smoking cessation. So it's a very common thing. People often do that, but I often do this with them. I have a jar in my office. It's a charity jar. So
Sure.
they have to start putting that. Everybody's got a name.
Okay.
And then it is where they have contributed to that with the smoking they've given up. And that itself is a motivator.
Sure.
So they know that the benefit that is caused
For
for the organization.
Sure.
Or even if they belong to a charity, they can do that. And that's so those are little rewards which you need to have in mind
Sure.
for them to feel good about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lady I'm dealing with right now who's due for a knee surgery, and she is unable to get her surgery because her diabetes is really bad. And her biggest thing is about handbags. So I've said to her, okay, put your name on a particular brand and you can buy that if you get this. And she's saving money for that. And she's at the same time, like she's paying me for this, but it's going into a pot where that money is being saved towards a handbag. So you have to really know what that person is got to, like we all have a little pleasure.
What role does continuous support and motivation play in achieving lifestyle changes?
Continuous,
I mean, your role,
yeah,
basically.
Sure. If you've got somebody to go back to, we all have a slippery slope. We have got this, okay, I was not in the best mood, so I went and had like a double cornetto or something. And but then again, come back, let's start again. That's where you can always go.
Okay.
Because if there is no support, we all need support.
Yeah.
We all have a different ways. Some people go and talk to a friend, some people go and worship, some people go to the pub, some people just go for a walk.
Yeah.
So the same way in diet, you need some support. So if you know of somebody who knows your likes and dislikes and can tailor around a menu, I think regular support can definitely help you to get back on track. And knowing that there is that person. Like when I was growing up, we had this little entrance in the house,
Sure.
and my grandmother used to sit there. And we had the cycle, like, oh, we'll get home and we'll see her. We can see, she couldn't hear.
Yeah.
But we just went there, sat there, talked everything of the day, and that was the stress buster for us. So that's the same thing. As healthcare professionals, I don't think so we are magicians. We don't have any magic cure.
True.
All we do is talk back to what you've just told us.
Are there any specific resources, tools, or apps you recommend for managing, preventing diabetes?
Diabetes UK have got a very good website.
Okay.
And they've got lots of resources on that. So if you're looking for meal planners, if you're looking for menu ideas, sometimes people not everybody knows how to cook. So people need somebody to give you a recipe.
Sure.
So there are lots of different cooks, I would say, or people who've written recipes over there, different menus as well. So it could be in English, Italian, Indian, whatever food you're looking for, there'll be different menus.
Yeah.
So that could be something which you could follow. And it is reliable research source. It's not something which is just put out on the net.
No, of course.
It is not. And it is a UK base. So it is catered to the people.
Sure.
It's not like from some other part of the world and
Yeah.
it works for their weather. So I think that is a good reliable
We
resource.
will place those links in the description.
Yes, sure,
with
sure. I
this
can share that
episode.
with you.
We will
Yeah.
do that. Thank you. How important is to work with healthcare professionals such as dietitian and endocrinologist in managing and preventing diabetes?
I think it is a vital part because you don't go to a hairdresser to get your car repaired.
No.
You go to the mechanic, right? The same way goes for your health.
Sure.
You go to a diabetes specialist for your diabetes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the same logic which applies. Often I have in my clinic where people say to me that, oh, you don't have diabetes, you don't understand me. But you don't have to have the condition to understand them.
Sure.
You have the knowledge to understand. Like other thing which I have often heard is that, I say that, you don't have to have cancer to be a cancer specialist.
Absolutely.
So it's a bit of contradiction over there.
Yeah.
But knowing somebody who's got the knowledge,
Yeah.
because it's not also just the knowledge, it's also the type of people we see every day. So my standard clinics are generally 8 to 10 patients. It's like literally a 40-minute appointment or to an hour or something. So I can't have more than them. It's not like a 10-minute GP appointment. So it's quite a laid-back clinic.
Sure.
And I'm meeting a variety of people. So obviously there could be something which I've learned from person A. And person B has the same problem. So I can use that example. The book will give me the theory.
Sure.
But the real life example which you get is meeting with people. So
Great.
that's something which definitely helps.
Absolutely. Thank you. What should individuals look for when choosing diabetes specialist or dietitian?
They should have a registration, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because if they have got a registration, they won't give you any rubbish advice. I'm sorry to say that. They won't give you anything off the shelf. Like, as such, I cannot give a brand name in my advice. I can say, okay, a cereal of like make, like it should be either made of wheat or corn. I can't say a brand name of a cereal.
Sure.
So that is for you to choose. And that is the difference where it is all about. Where you can't just be saying a brand. You can give the base. That's what it's all about. And they will also have a nutritional measurement. So, okay, there will be weight loss advice if people are looking for. But at the same time, the specialist will keep in mind of what are your basic needs. Like, you know how in a car you've got the tire pressure, engine oil, and the fuel tank. They all have to have the right measurement. You can't have the tire pressure low or the engine oil low. So that's where the dietitian can do a holistic approach, give you a balanced diet, looking at what your body needs.
Sure. Thank you so much for your valuable insights, Nisha. This has been enlightening conversation, and I'm sure our listeners have gained a lot of practical knowledge.
Thank you.